Hi guys, for those of you who watch my channel, this is a little bit different from what I normally do, in that this is a tutorial video. In this video we're going to look at a very powerful stat, which can be used in maps which include ore and a lot of gems. I've seen a lot of highly ranked players using this strategy, including ones who are ranked in the top 10 in Quick Match. I call this strategy the 3 War Factory start. What I mean by the 3 War Factory start is when you build 3 war factories before you build your second ore refinery. By building 3 war factories, you increase the speed at which they produce units. So for example, if you have 1 war factory which takes 24 seconds to build a unit, when you have 3 war factories, that same unit will take 8 seconds. So by building 3 war factories earlier, you're able to build more tanks early on than other players using different strategies. One important thing to remember is that this strategy only works in Quick Match or when Aftermath units are switched off. This is because if Aftermath units are switched on, you do not get any speed building bonuses after the second war factory, so make sure you watch out for that if you're playing any multiplayer. The reason people use this start is because it gives them an advantage for the mid game of the increased tank building speed early on. Of course, when you use this strategy, you're not going to have as many tanks as someone who's going to rush in the early game, but as long as you can survive the rush, you are going to be in a very strong position. A long-term strategy which could be used to counter this strategy if you're not careful is the multiple MCV build. This is a strategy where players invest a large amount of resources in the early game into building multiple MCVs. So it's not a good idea to wait around too long before attacking with this strategy. What we're going to look at in this video is we're going to look at what maps does this strategy work well on, because it only works on certain maps. It's not like you can use this strategy on any old map. We're going to look at how to effectively carry out this strategy, and there we're going to watch a full game where I use this strategy against other opponents. And we're also going to look at when should you use the strategy, because just because you're on a map where you can use this strategy, it's not always the most appropriate strategy to use. So we're going to have a little look at that as well. Let's have a look at the types of maps where you can use this strategy. This map is Super Bridgehead. And what makes some of the starting positions suitable to carry out this type of start is the fact that the ore patches are surrounded by lots of gems. The gems are really important as you will need to micromanage the ore trucks to collect them at the start. A map this start would not work on is the Path Beyond. Although the map has both gems and ore, you would not want to use this start because there's just not enough gems available, and you would run out early on, and so you would not get the benefits of building 3 war factories. Now that we've looked at the types of maps where we can use this strategy on, let's have a look at some gameplay footage in a match where I carried out this strategy. In this match, it was a 1v2 and it was on the map Arena Valley Extreme, and I'm starting in the top left. This is a common map where I've seen this strategy used on. Other maps I've seen this strategy used include the Rivers Wild, Hamburger Hill and Super Bridgehead. The initial start is very similar to what I would use for other strategies. I'm going to first build 15 infantrymen. This is going to help block any scouts trying to enter my base, and also getting a bit more visibility around the area of my base so I can see any attacks which are incoming. Now this match wasn't perfect. I didn't micromanage the ore trucks to perfection, as we'll see later on, and that's one of the reasons I chose this match, because I want to show how good this strategy is when you don't micromanage your ore trucks perfectly, and just to see if it's still viable, because let's face it, in a lot of matches things happen that you don't expect. For example, early attacks off your opponents. What you will notice is that I've got the initial build order on the screen, which I'm just leaving there for now. I will also add the build order in the video description. What you will notice I am doing is sending the ore trucks all the time to collect gems. This is really important initially, as you are going to need this, otherwise you are going to run out of ore very quickly. Now the build order from your war factory is initially 2 ore trucks, and then you can start building light tanks if you're allies. I'm going to build up to 15 light tanks before building 2 more ore trucks. The number of light tanks you can build before you need to build more ore trucks can vary with the map. I find 15 works quite well for me if I do a good job of managing the ore trucks to collect gems at the start. But if it's not going so well, you might want to produce maybe 12 or 13. So I would say in most cases up to 15 is a rough estimate. It's also fine if you want to build medium tanks initially, and if you're playing Soviets you will be building heavy tanks. When watching other players use this strategy for Soviets, I've seen players building up to 14 heavy tanks. This is when it's USSR and cheaper units. Now, as you can see in this match, Cyan are attacking with a group of infantry early on, and even if they do not manage to destroy any buildings, this is going to cause me some problems, because I'm not going to be able to micromanage my ore trucks during this time. In hindsight, what I should have done is reduce the number of light tanks to 14 or 13 when I saw this happening. In terms of tank numbers, as you can see, I do have a good number of tanks at this stage in the game. And at this point, if you have not been attacked, what you should be thinking about is applying some pressure to your opponent. As I said earlier on in the video, a counter which can be used against this strategy, if you do not attack early on, is a multiple MCV build. However, if your opponents do use this type of strategy, they will be very vulnerable in the early game. So there is a window when you can attack, but if you wait too long, it puts you in a very bad position, especially if you are playing against the Soviets. Now we have finished our build order for the 3 war factory start, as we've got our 3 war factories and got an economy which can sustain production for the immediate future. There are a couple of things you can do next. If you are expecting a longer game, you can build a service depot and build extra MCVs, as this will increase the speed at which you can produce structures, which will boost your long-term potential, but will initially leave you with less tanks on the map, as you will need to sacrifice tank building to build MCVs from your war factories. Another approach which I do in this game is keep on expanding and building ore refineries until I get an economy which can support a 4th war factory. As you can see, I have a large number of tanks, which is overwhelming Cyan. I did watch the replay for this game, and at the 4-minute mark, even though I had slightly messed up with the strategy early on with the micromanagement of ore trucks, I had hit the 25 tank mark. This is 15 light tanks and 10 medium tanks. So at 4 minutes you can have 25 tanks on the field. Of course this will be slightly less if you're Soviets, which just shows you how strong this strategy can be. Now we did see a service depot in Cyan's base, which would tell me he may have another base. I know we actually saw his MCV moving to the left. As you can see, I'm currently building ore refineries for the next ore patch, and you need to make sure you keep on expanding, especially on a map where there's a lot of resources in the middle. At the end of the game, the person who controls the middle generally wins it. Now we're going to move on to attacking yellow, and we do know, because when we saw Cyan's MCV moving, that they're probably inside yellow's base. And as you can see, I have a greater number of tanks than yellow at this point in time, and as is important with any match, it's very important that you micromanage your tanks while attacking. That means holding the Q button and moving your tanks around the target you were attacking. This match was pretty straightforward, but the video is about highlighting the strategy rather than the gameplay itself. And as you can see, I now have the economy, so I can build the 4th war factory, which will be the final one I will build in this game. Now that you have seen how to carry out the 3 war factory start, before I end this video, I just want to show you a situation where you should not try this start. In this game, my opponents were located at the other side of the map, so there was a large travel time between the bases. When you look at the start position, I could do a 3 war factory start, but I'm not going to because we started in random positions and my opponent's base is right next to me. A 3 war factory start would be a bad idea because I would be too vulnerable to a rush attack, since there's such little travel time between the bases, and it would just mean I would be too weak and would be defeated. In this game I will build one ore truck before starting tank production, so we'll be only making 2 war factories before I need my second ore refinery. So like I said, the 3 war factory start is a good strategy on maps with a mix of ore and gems, where you mine a lot of gems in the early game. However, only use this strategy if your opponents are located far enough away, and beware of the multiple MCV strategy, which could catch you out if you're too passive and do not attack. Hope you found this video informative, and thank you for watching.